Hey y'all, welcome back. It is tea time with Tangie, and I am back on the YouTube scene. Yay! Thank you for tuning in. Make sure that you are liking, subscribing, and sharing this video. Again, like I said, I am back. I have been MIA. I had a little bit of a transition. I moved from Arizona, and I'm now residing in Maryland, and it has just been a little bit of a rocky past year. So, but nevertheless, I am trying to get back into the swing of things. And so without further ado, let's get into today's tea. But before I get into the tea of the topic of what I'm going to talk about today, let's talk about the tea that I am drinking. I am drinking on lemon ginger tea. It's a herbal tea. I do share with you guys what tea I'm drinking. It tastes pretty good. It's not too gingery. I don't like ginger, but this isn't giving me a strong ginger vibe. So I like it. And it's caffeine free. And so that is the tea I'm drinking. So grab your cup of tea. If you're a tea drinker, if not, then by all means, get your water, coffee, soda, whatever it is you're drinking, and let's go ahead and dive into today's topic. I am going to be sharing with you a topic which is not very fun. And most people don't like to talk about it, but it is about life care and estate planning. And I think with the times that we're living in, where we have unfortunately dealt with a lot of people, who have passed away or who have become incapacitated, there hasn't been a lot of planning, I'm pretty sure, around some of those events. And so today I just want to talk to you about some of the documents that are available or are out there for you that you might want to consider looking into when it comes to preparing for the worst, which could be becoming incapacitated, or unfortunately, we all have a time when we are going to meet our maker, and that is the time of our passing, our death. Okay, so again, I know this is not going to be a fun topic, but it's an important one. And before I go into the information, I want to just give a brief disclaimer that this information is not legal advice. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you need to go out and get any of these documents. And I'm not representing anyone. I am a licensed attorney in Maryland and also licensed in DC. But this information is just strictly that. It's just general information, no legal advice. And if you do choose to look into getting estate planning or life care planning, I highly suggest that you contact an attorney in your area, in your state, that can assist you with making sure that you are getting the proper estate planning documents in place. Okay? So let's go ahead and dive right in now that we got all that out of the way. Again, like I said, I know this is not a very fun topic, but it's really important. I myself have experienced loss. I lost my mother about 3 years ago, and I know what it can be like to be dealing with grief and then trying to, on top of that, figure out what to do with your loved one's belongings or, financial situations and all of that. It can be very overwhelming. So that's why I think it's really important that we focus on making sure that we have the proper life care and estate planning documents in place. Because the last thing you want to do is be dealing with grief, and then you have your family issues, and we know that it can be really ugly and messy when a loved one passes away and there's no proper, planning documents in place, because then people are fighting over, stuff, and it's just, it's, these things can be avoided if you do your due diligence now while you're alive, breathing, and in good health, and can think clear. Okay. So, so the first document, or the first two documents I want to kind of talk about, because they kind of go hand in hand, is the Advance Directive, which is also known as a living will, and then your healthcare power of attorney. A healthcare power of attorney is basically just a form that allows for you to appoint an agent, which could be a relative, a friend, a spouse, whomever, to make medical decisions on your behalf in the event that you become incapacitated due to maybe mental illness or physical injury or illness. That would, this form, the healthcare power of attorney, would allow for someone to act on your behalf. And then in the living will itself would be statements that are written that have instructions on what to do for your medical care in the future, right? So again, this is something that happens in the future when you become incapacitated. This would tell the doctors and your loved ones how you want your care to be performed. A lot, and I'm not going to go into great detail about this form. It's just very general and basic, but this is one of the forms you might want to look into and consider, is a living will. This is going to allow your doctors to make or allow for your doctors and your loved ones to know what decisions you want if you're unable to make those decisions yourself. And so, or because you can't tell anybody what you want. You've seen like these stories where someone's in like a vegetative state, and, you have a set of people over here that want to do X, Y, and Z. And then you have a set of people over here that want to do this. And then you have the doctors that want to do that. Well, if you had a living will in place, you could tell someone what you want your wishes to be while you're incapacitated in this living will. This document will allow for that to happen. So it's really good to consider looking into a living will and a healthcare power of attorney to help with your life care medical decisions in the event you become incapacitated. And I would suggest that you go look on your Attorney General state website. So whatever state you're in, I know in Maryland, we have the forms online with the Attorney General's office. When I lived in Arizona, they had the forms online. So you can look at those forms. Again, I'm not going to go into all the formalities of what you need and all that stuff. I'll do that probably in another video. But those are really good forms to have, especially because we're living in a time where people are getting sick and all of these things. And it is crucial for you to have something in place so that your loved one knows what your wishes are, and no one has to fight or figure out what it is that you would want your medical care to be. Okay, so that is the Advance Directive, aka the living will and the healthcare power of attorney. The next document I want to talk about is the medical order for life-sustaining treatment. Now, that is a form that is in Maryland. I don't know if it's in your state. You could look online to see if these forms are available. You don't necessarily need an attorney to help you with these forms. However, if you're confused about them, I do highly suggest getting some legal advice on how to fill them out or what you need to make sure that they're valid, that you're filling them out correctly. So with this medical order for life-sustaining treatment, which is the form that I know of in Maryland, it's a form for right now. So the living will is something that is for in the future, but the medical order for life-sustaining treatment is something that you want for right now. It does contain medical orders about resuscitation or other life-sustaining treatments. So like if you want to be kept alive, or if you want to be resuscitated in the event that you stop breathing or something, that's what this form would be used for. And that's what you would use to, you would complete that form. Um, it does help ensure what your wishes are. You can decline certain types of treatment. So that you may not want to be resuscitated, you may not want to be kept alive on a machine. And I remember when I had filled out one of these forms, and I actually had this information in my living will many moons ago, when I first got my living will done, which I was really young, but I had young children and I wanted to make sure, I had these documents in place. But I remember showing it to my mother, and she was a little taken back by it because I had made my wishes clear of what I wanted. And she was like, I wouldn't want to be able to do that. I don't think I can do that. And I'm not going to say what I had in my order and in my documents, but I've changed them now. But she was, but those were the wishes that I wanted. And had I not had those wishes in place, then she would have made a different decision for me that I didn't want. So again, it's really important to have these documents in place. And again, you can check with your state to see if the medical order for life-sustaining treatment is a form that's available to your state. Sometimes those documents can actually, that document can actually be implemented into your living will about life-sustaining treatment. Because when I was in Arizona, I believe I had that in my living will. The next document that I'm going to talk about is the financial power of attorney. That basically is just a document that gives someone legal authority to act on your behalf in the event, again, you become incapacitated. And so with the healthcare power of attorney and the financial power of attorney, there are general and limited power of attorneys. Healthcare and financial power of attorneys are more on the limited side because they just give the person that you appoint limited powers. They don't have power to do all kinds of things while you're alive and well. And, so no one right now could just go, if I had if I had a power of attorney, they couldn't just go to my, bank and start, closing out my accounts and doing all these things. If I had a limited power of attorney. Now, if you have a general power of attorney, that kind of gives people a different scope of authority of what they can do. And I'm not going to go into great detail about all of how the power of attorneys work. I'll do that probably in another video. But for the basics of this video, the financial power of attorney basically just allows someone the authority to be able to act on your behalf for your financial matters when you become incapacitated. This is really good to have, especially if you operate businesses, or if you have children and they need things, and bills need to be paid and all that stuff, and you're not able to do that. You have someone who can act on your behalf. In the limited power of attorneys, it is specific instructions that you put in there. It does list the scope of power that the appointed person has, which is your agent. They call that person the agent. And then you can discuss in your power of attorney of how long this person is to have this authority and when it is to take place. So most of the time you want your power of attorneys to take place when you are not able to make decisions. If you're fine and well, then you more than likely don't necessarily need to have a power of attorney. But if you're facing, situations where you're not able to make those decisions because you have become out of your mind, or you're sick or whatever, those are good documents to have in place. All right, moving on to the next document, which is a standby guardian designation document. Now, again, I don't know what documents are available in your state, or what attorneys draft what documents for you in your state. I'm in Maryland. and I know in Maryland there's a standby guardian designation. Basically, this is just when a person is appointed by a parent of a child to take care of that child in the event that the parent becomes, deceased, unfortunately, or mentally or physically incapacitated due to some type of illness or injury. And also, I am an immigration attorney, and so this sometimes is a good tool to have in the event that you're facing some type of immigration action, maybe deportation or removal. Then you might want to consider having a standby guardian designation in place so that you're able to appoint someone to help take care of your child in the event that you're not able to do so. Now, this form is it doesn't constitute any type of custody, so it doesn't give anyone any custody rights. And at least one parent does have to consent to the appointment. And then you also can revoke this consent at any time. So again, it's not a guardianship custody type of, I shouldn't say guardianship, but it's not a custody form. It's not granting anyone legal, like they can't strip you of your parental rights or anything of that nature. And you don't even lose your parental rights while you have this form in place. So that is just also another form to consider, especially if you have young children. It's just a good document to have in your estate planning documents. And then we're moving on to the will and testament. That is just your standard will. Who should have a will? I think every adult should have a will. I don't care if you feel like you don't have any assets or you don't have, any money or anything. Like every adult should have a will, okay? Especially if you have young children. A will is basically just a written legal document that states what you want done about various topics of your stuff, your assets, money, personal belongings, what you want done with all that stuff when you die. Again, we're all going to die. No, we don't want to talk about it, but we are all unfortunately going to die. So it's better to prepare for it now than when you're dead, right? Can't prepare for anything when you're dead. So a will can include your wishes on what you want to happen to your belongings. It can even talk about how you want your funeral to be. Sometimes those wishes can be put in different documents, like your living will, just because, your will has to go through probate. So just keep that in mind when you're putting things into a will. It does have to go through probate. But it's really important to have, a will, because it can also talk about, like, especially if you have children, who can care for your children. Because if you die without a will, then the state is going to make decisions on your behalf. And that's called intestate succession. And a lot of times the laws for intestate, dying without a will, it's not going to be what you wanted. So it's really important that you look into maybe getting a will in place, just if you want to make sure that your wishes are honored in the event that you do pass away. So another thing about dying without a will, it does not address if you have minor children and who cares for them. So a lot of times if you do pass away and you have young children and you don't have a will, then the state is going to, decide by using the court system, social agencies, on who gets your children, especially if there's not another available parent in the picture. So if you're a single parent and you don't have the other parent is not in the picture, doesn't want to be in the picture, or you have both parents that pass away, you want to make sure you're having your wishes met by, utilizing a will. And I just I speak mostly on that because I'm a single mom. And so I always want to make sure that I have something in place that addresses what my wishes are, in the event, that I pass away. So that is a will. Again, it's just going to discuss what you want, um, your wishes to be, and where you want your stuff to go and who you want it to go to. Because believe it or not, people fight over this kind of stuff all the time, and it gets just really ugly. And if you had something in place, you would eliminate a lot of the strife and discord that families deal with when people pass away. And it's just unfortunate that it happens, but it happens, and it's a realistic situation, and you just want to make sure that you're prepared for it. I would suggest looking into getting a will. And then the last document that I'm going to talk about is the trust. I hear a lot of people all the time want to get a trust. It is a more complex document. It is not something that is easily drafted like a will might be. With a trust, though, there are some advantages of having a trust versus than having a will. And basically, a trust is just a legal arrangement where one person is going to give legal ownership of specific property to another person. And they're going to use, to benefit a third person. So basically that's the beneficiary. So it's going to be used to benefit the third person, which is the beneficiary. So you'll have your settlor or your grantor, and I don't want to get into all the legalese of it, but that's what they call the person who's going to be giving their stuff, putting their stuff into this trust. And then they're going to give the ownership over to the trustee, which is that second person. And then it's going to benefit a third person, which is the beneficiary. So again, that's a lot of legalese that I don't want to get into. I'll probably be doing a video over all the different type of documents, like individual, just so that you can get a little bit more idea of what some of these documents are and what you need in order to have these documents. But anyways, in some situations, having a trust is, with transferring property in your trust, is a lot more inexpensive than a will could be, because a will, it has to go through probate. That's the court system. And there's fees associated with that. Whereas with a trust, you're not dealing with probate. And then the benefits, again, are, it manages assets on behalf of family members, which are beneficiaries, or your children, especially in the case of if, the parent dies, then this trust can, allow for your children to have the things that they need, but it's more controlled. It's in a more controlled setting than as with a will, if that makes sense. And then in some cases, there's asset protection against creditors. Not all the time, but that's a lot of the reason why people want to get a trust, is because they want to shield their assets from the creditors. And there are ways to do that, but you would need to get with a legal advisor, attorney, expert, or whatever that can help you set up the trust properly to make sure that happens. It does, again, I mentioned, eliminates the dealing of probate. There are tax benefits to having a trust. And then there's control over insurance policies that you can add into a trust, which you can't put into a will. And then if you're a business owner, there are also things that you can utilize a trust for. So again, I went way over of what I wanted to talk about with the trust, but I do, I do suggest that you consider some of these documents that I mentioned as things that you might want to use in the future or now, to prepare for your, the inevitable, being incapacitated or, passing away. The main documents that I suggest that you focus on is the advance directive, which is the living will, the healthcare power of attorney, and the healthcare power of attorney, and then the financial power of attorney. Those are also documents that you probably are really essential to have. And then your will. A will is a really good estate planning document. It's going to let your family members know what to do with your stuff, and what your wishes are. And, I mean, again, I know this is not the happiest topic for me to, jump right in and talk to you guys about. But I think with the times that we're living in, there's so much uncertainty. People are getting sick left and right. These are just some really good resources and tools that you should have in place so that your loved ones are not faced with trying to figure everything out when it's too late. And that means when you're not breathing. Okay, when you're not alive, to tell people what you want and how you want it and when you want it. I think it's just so important that we continue to just do our due diligence and make sure that we are setting our families up for, less stress and, to not have to grieve and stress all at the same time. And it's really not that complex or difficult to get these documents in place. Some of them you can do on your own. Some of them you can do with the help of an attorney. And I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to share today. I will probably drop some more videos about life estate planning documents that, can help you make sure that you have the proper tools in place. And that's it. So until next time, please make sure to like, share, subscribe. And I look forward to more videos. Again, they will be posted every second and fourth Thursday of the month. I think my next video, I will keep with this theme on the estate planning documents and probably go over maybe the benefits of the will and the trust, just so that you can kind of see a little bit more detail about what those documents, what they are and how to get them. Okay. Because there's a little bit more information that I just wasn't going to go into detail with in this video. So until then, or until next time.